Hello, everyone, and welcome to You're on Fire, a Pokemon Unite podcast hosted by us three gentlemen. I am Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yee-haw, and I'm joined by Crashy and Loosh. Hello, Crashy. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, and Loosh, good, very, very late night, correct?
Yeah. Morning. It's about 4 a.m. 4 a.m.
Oh, it's 4 a.m. Okay.
Yes.
Every time we record this, we just have to tell Loosh to drink coffee continuously until Crashy and I are ready to just go, okay, we're ready to do it now.
Yeah, I've had so many coffees.
We actually just put him on like an IV drip, just a coffee drip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good investment.
Today, we are going to talk about a lot of exciting stuff. Obviously, we wanted to put this episode out a little earlier, and then we said, well, Aegislash is coming out. We need some time with this character, and I assume it's going to be a huge topic. So that is what we did. We are here to talk about that now, as well as a bunch of other exciting stuff inside Unite, like tournaments coming up, the next Pokemon getting released. But let's hop into our newest all-rounder that just joined the game, Aegislash. I'm sure we've all spent a ton of time with this character. I've been playing it kind of nonstop. I've been watching Crashy absolutely dominate with it in a 5-stack team. Loosh, why don't we start with you? What are your thoughts just briefly on Aegislash, kind of like your first impressions of this Pokemon?
Okay, my first impressions, I feel like Aegislash is pretty solid. I feel like it's a pretty solid character. It does a very unique thing that no one else does, where it has the ability to get into a fight, do some burst, and then turn into a tank and just kind of sit there and absorb a little until it wants to do burst again. I think that's a really, really cool mechanic. I love the way the boosters work. It's a very mechanical character, but for me, I think it just falls a little bit short. I just don't think it has the power to take a slot from anything in the meta right now. I do think the character is very fun and very, very decent. I just don't love it. I know Crashy's a big Aegislash fan. I've been seeing him one-trick it lately, so I head to Crashy for this. Like, let us know your thoughts, man.
I think from a design perspective, Aegislash is super, super cool. Like, I love really, really unique design. All-rounders are my favorite battle type, like the archetype of like Bruiser. And this character, it's like it feels all-rounder because it has a speedster side and because it has like a tank side, and and it's all-rounder because it feels like it's one, like those two things combined. The thing is, like, this character's crazy. Like, when you're in. Like, you're like, you are in the back line, and you just either, like, like, playing it in fives, I, like, told my team, I was like, look, you either come in or you leave me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you make a choice. Like, you either come save me or you just get out, because I'm not getting out. And, but it has so much potential, and I do think, like, competitively speaking, because of, like, the nature of, like, mirror matches, it's definitely not, like, the highest tier pick, but I think it's pretty solid. It's really fun to play. And the kit design is super fun. And I actually think, thinking about it, it might be one of the higher skill ceiling characters in the game right now. Although it doesn't have necessarily the highest return, I think it's really, really, like, you got to make some really good decisions with it.
Wow, that's the way you worded that is exactly right. I think its skill ceiling is incredibly high because you have to understand when you are fighting, when you are not. You have to make some very specific decisions with this character. Like, you could never button mash this character to any type of win. But at the same time, yeah, I wonder if even if you're a master with this character, if you would want it to replace something on your team. Now, of course, you know, competitive and then playing solo and stuff like that, it's all very different. But as Loosh was saying, one thing I kind of noticed about this Pokemon is it really only has two options, right? It's either in the jungle, if we're talking competitively, or it's in the top lane solo. And it really does feel like you're running up against two monstrous, you know, Pokemon that you want to take your slot from, and you probably wouldn't take that slot with a Pokemon like Aegislash. I think as I was first playing it, I was really noticing how, one, incredibly fun it was, but I also thought Trevenant was very, very fun. But this one at least is fun and quite a bit more viable, I would say, than Trevenant. And yeah, the other thing I was noticing is you really have to make some good decisions when you're playing this Pokemon, or you know, when you're playing Aegislash poorly, which I've done enough, when you're playing Aegislash poorly, it is awful. It is truly just terrible. When you're just like, you jump in a sword form, you slash someone twice, there are 3 enemies around, then you just get turned into dust, you're KO'd. It's like, wow, this Pokemon is tough. But yeah, when you kind of get into a flow, you're almost unKOable, and then you come back with burst damage. I don't know why. It kind of to me, it feels like a mix between Zarina and Gengar. It's like part of the time I'm actually bursting out a ton of damage, and then the other time it's like I'm actually sustaining myself quite a bit in a fight. But the balance there is really, really tricky. I guess before we hop in, maybe because we have talked a little bit about where it fits into the meta, I'd love to have us talk about kind of different builds and move sets for this character, because I actually think a lot of it's pretty viable in different ways, but then there are some head scratchy things with this character. Crashy, I know that you love wide guard, which will probably end our friendship, but why don't you tell me a little bit about like how you've been building Aegislash?
Wide guard good, man. Wide guard good. No, I actually think, for the sake of saying on the shield side of things, I think Ironhead and Wide Guard are both really, really good. But what Wide Guard's been doing for me is it feels like it has potential to do more than Ironhead. Like, it can achieve more, but there's the trade-off, right? The trade-off is that it has a longer cooldown. It doesn't mitigate damage. It will shield you. So then the shield acts as like, you can take damage because it's a shield, but it's not going to completely nullify damage. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not going to nullify damage, where Ironhead, if you have good timing and you nullify the right thing, that could be game changing. And Wide Guard gives you what I feel is the best way of explaining it is it gives you more options. So this character, the way that I've been fighting with it, or the way that I see that it fights, is that you go through phases and you're constantly asking yourself a singular question. So whether you're Sacred Swording in or whether you're Shadow Claw, you kind of like dive in first, and then as the fight's breaking, you have to instantaneously ask yourself this question: can I survive this? And if the answer is yes, then you kind of like use your shield mode, like you use your shield ability, whichever one you're using. You get like one shield bash in minimum, so you can lower the cooldown of your sword ability, and then you go back into bursting. And if the answer is no, then you stay in sword or in shield form, and you just spam bash yourself to heal yourself, and you just pray that you survive. And that's another reason why I love full heal on this character, because when you're in, and a single knockup could be the end of the game for you. So it's like, I dash in, I'm like, nope, can't survive this one. Full heal, bash, 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 and I just try to heal myself back up as much as possible. And so whether it's, like I said, Ironhead or Wide Guard, getting in that back line, and when you Wide Guard, they can't not hit you. That's the beauty of it. They literally can't not hit you, so you're going to go to four boosteds, and then you get to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to go back into bursting, or do I want to go into full healing myself, or trying to heal myself as much as possible? And man, that back and forth trying to decide, that's why I love the character. It's so fun.
Yeah, what do you think, Lush?
Yeah, so I agree that full heal is definitely the battle item for Aegislash, even though sometimes I really wish I had a eject button, but full heal is definitely, I think, the go-to. I will say I do actually like a Wide Guard, but it is not for orange ping. If you're an orange ping, do not take a Wide Guard because you're not going to get it off. It's never going to happen. Ironhead, I've been liking more on those ping games because that little attack boost, at least, if you can't time the defensive option. But I've been trying so hard to make Shadow Claw work, and I just cannot. I feel like it is so good for getting picks. Like, say you want to run a Cinderace or something, you can take them out really well with Shadow Claw. But I think that Sacred Sword is just such a better option. And I've been experimenting a lot with some different builds. And I know you like Weakness a lot, Crashy. I've been trying that myself. It's pretty good. And I think this character feels like it has two playstyles. And I think it has so many build options. I think it's a character that can really take advantage of either that tanky, supporty side or that offensive side. And that's really cool. As I said, I feel like it falls a little short, but I feel like it's very impactful. I don't know if you guys have had those moments where you feel like you come in and you just get their whole team to 40% and then just blow up. Yeah. I don't know if it happened to you guys. Yeah.
A lot of my team fights on Aegislash is like, and I think me and you talked about this before. This is a character that you're not going to go in a team fight in 1v5. Like, you can do that with Cinderace, right? Like, if you're fed enough, if you position well, if the team fight goes well, you can actually kill all of them. This character is not going to do that. And at the end of the game, when you look at it, this character, like, for me, I have a hard time pushing like 70, 80,000 damage. Like, but that's not where the strength is to me. I think the strength comes in you're mitigating damage for your team because they're hitting you, and then your teammates can do damage, and you can actually hit the enemies a lot and pull all of their health bars down, and then your teammates can kind of like steamroll and clean up. So I think as far as like solo queue versus coordinated play, the character team fight's way better with some coordination. But yeah, I agree. Sacred or Shadowclaw. Shadowclaw for me falls a little bit short, and we can talk about that. But even build wise, I've done so many different builds on this character, and I feel like it's starting to niche down for me, because the thing about this character that we'll probably all agree on is that like you get in and you're in, and like not having like a buddy, at minimum you have to like have a buddy, which like we all know you kind of almost always have to have a buddy.
Are you a Focus fan? I do like Focus on AG.
I feel like so I've locked my build into weakness, focus, and buddy, and every time I pull one of those three off, I'm like, nope, I'm going back to it, and I just keep playing it over and over again. I tried doing like a Shadowclaw crit build, and like don't get me wrong, when you crit and it feels great. But at the same time, it's like the crit chance is so low when you have to get to like level 11 that like Shadowclaw for me, I'm not really seeing like the niche of it. Like I don't, or I'm not feeling the impact of the niche. I see the niche, but I'm not feeling the impact.
Yeah, Shadowclaw is weird. Shadowclaw, I feel like, is designed for a character with a much higher critical hit rate, where all of a sudden you just become a critical hit monster. When you're flying around with your boosted attacks, you're incredible. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, I get what they did. They pulled the character's critical hit back, so when you use Shadowclaw, you're now critically hitting. But why would you have it where when you use this level 11 upgraded move, you kind of finally get the same critical hit as a Cinderace? Like, that doesn't feel right. It feels like it actually should be, maybe your crit's really low, but when you use Shadowclaw, you're now up to 45% or something like that. Like, okay, let's make it really, really low base level crit. However, when you finally hit this Shadowclaw at a high level, you are bursting out a ton of damage. That would be awesome.
I also can't help the fact that like the move classifications, like Sacred Sword is an area move and Shadowclaw is a dash move, but I'm pretty sure Sacred Sword gives you more mobility, like because it's just like longer range. So I found that a little bit weird. Like they probably, at least in my opinion, probably could have just been both like listed as dash moves, or maybe it's just irrelevant and it doesn't really matter. I don't know, but like I did find that a little interesting. But like the way that I've explaining Shadowclaw lately is that it feels like almost anything that Shadowclaw can do, Shadowclaw can do, Sacred Sword can do better. And so like they both have a knockup, although someone was telling me that the Shadowclaw knockup is longer. I'm not actually sure if that's true. Shadowclaw does have a 2-second cooldown, like shorter. It's like shorter on the cooldown, but realistically in a big team fight, like once it starts coming down to it, I don't really think a 2-second cooldown matters that much. Like it does matter, but like not that much.
I think it could be helpful for switching back from shield to sword, but like the move's just not good enough to warrant it, I don't think.
Yeah, so sometimes when I like say I go wide guard and I shield bash to lower the cooldown of Sacred Sword, I do still have to wait like a second sometimes. So like I think if you're using like the shield bash to lower the cooldown of like Shadowclaw, you're probably almost always going to have it. So like there's not that like awkward feeling like maybe you have to wait like 1 second, but sometimes that doesn't happen either. So it just depends. Like I don't really feel the impact of the cooldown because, like I said, sometimes when I wide guard or Iron Head, I'm shield bashing multiple times anyways because I need to heal myself, and then my Shadowclaw or my Sacred Sword would be up anyways. So I don't know how impactful Shadowclaw is, but I haven't really found a great use for it.
Yeah, what do you guys think of that little awkward space on Sacred Sword between you and the target?
Yeah, the like 1 inch gap.
That's so weird, right? Where there's that little area where your triangle doesn't hit, but you hit, and then there's this big part of the triangle where your triangle hits, but you don't hit. It's pretty cool because you actually have to have a little skill with where you're using it, because if they wanted to make it very, very basic, the triangle would just start right where you're at, right? That's exactly how they'd set it up. But you actually, like, when I'm jungling, I'll just like miss a wild Pokemon. I'm like, oh yeah, it's right next to me. I have to like actually step back, slightly move to make this happen. And this might be a little too inside baseball, and we might have to edit this out, but I just want to make sure, are we recording video right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just normally see a recording thing going, and I got stressed out. So I apologize. Sorry. Back to Sacred Sword.
Yeah, it's funny. I think the thing with Sacred Sword for me is that it's a lot like Wide Guard, where I feel like it has more potential to get more done, but maybe it's not as simple and as easy, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that Shadow Claw is bad, but I think that if you can get closer to mastering Sacred Sword, then that's where like the potential of the character comes from. Because you're right, that you hit in the, like, you know, the little arrows on the Sacred Sword, you hit in there, but if you don't hit in there, like, then you're gonna like miss the slash part of the damage. So you need to like hit the area and the slash to like do the most damage. You need to hit, like, if you're ganking bees, for example, you need to hit the wild Pokemon and the players to get the most stacks. In order to make sure that you're hitting them, you need to be positioned like behind that like 1 inch gap. So I think that Sacred Sword has like a higher skill ceiling with a slightly higher return, and Shadow Claw is like lower skill ceiling. It's got a shorter cooldown. It's simple, but it does less damage. But I'm not sure, like, when we're talking about like trying to get really good at the character, I'm not sure if Shadow Claw can like keep up. Like, I feel like it is simpler, it's easier to use, but I'm not sure if that's like a good enough niche for it to get picked.
I agree on that for sure. I really like the Unite move. I really like Aegislash's Unite move. I love the skill shot, and it feels really powerful. It feels so powerful when you get that off on like low health targets. And I'm not sure if the entire map blipping is intentional. I don't
think so.
Yeah, I've wondered that too. Yeah, that's very odd.
Like, this character has that, and then it has the fact that the volume on this character is like 10 times that of every other character. I'm not sure if they intended changes there, but it's cool. But yeah, the Unite move feels really, really strong, and it's on like a Pikachu cooldown. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. It's really, really
low.
fast.
It's like 100 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, it's so low. It's so good. Like, I think the character is so close to being there, but it's also scary. This character being buffed scares me a lot. I don't know if I want that, because I think it would be a little too strong.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's like worth like kind of restating. I don't know if we did this in the last one. I'll probably do this in every single podcast episode when we talk about a new character. We do exist in just like blind pick meta. So if for whatever reason, whether it's just like an offsite third party tournament, if there were bans, like the second that like Machamp or Lucario gets banned, like Aegislash could easily be top lane. Like the second that Cinder gets banned, it could be jungle. So I mean,
that's very true.
I think like relatively speaking, it's not that the character feels weak. Like, I think that the character came out really balanced. It's just that like Lucario's not, right? Like, it's like, I don't think it's taken a slot. But as far as like solo queue goes, I feel like it's hard to carry a game with, but you can still do really, really well. And as far as like, say, I don't know, like duo or trio queue, like if you got a little bit of coordination with some friends, you can actually get a lot done with it. So I do like think that it's
strong.
I got to show you a clip of me and Giggs whenever he was playing Blissey. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I can imagine that.
Aegislash Blissey, like if you duo lane that and then you carry that into a team fight, it's actually,
well, with that ult on those boosteds, that's scary.
Well, not even just the ult on the boosteds. Like, we had a team fight where Giggs was playing. Giggs is our support player for my team. He was playing Blissey, and I like Sacred Sword into the enemy's choke at the Zapdos pit, and I'm behind them, and he Blissey ults through all of them. Like, he hits all of them, and it was so much damage. And then I'm boosted up, and I'm ready to go. Like, I'm, just get my daily injection from Blissey.
Yeah, that's one of the... Me being a player who primarily plays solo queue, that's one of the things I have noticed with Aegislash is that it's not a great solo carry, I don't feel like. It kind of reminds me of Gengar in that you are bursting down enemies, you're doing good damage, you can really pick someone off if they're in a bad position. But team fight-wise, there are so many Pokemon you'd rather be when you're alone than Aegislash, because it just feels like... Boy, you get yourself in really bad situations with Aegislash all the time. You're just like jumping right in and you're going, well, I hope this is enough to win this fight. And then the alternative when you're playing solo is you don't jump in very much, and then you're just not that, useful for your team. You're kind of just waiting a very long time for a good pick. So yeah, solo queue, I do find this Pokemon to be, I guess, maybe I would say pretty not ideal pretty underwhelming for solo queue, but watching it in a coordinated setting, there's so much more you can do with it, especially watching you play it, Crashy. It's like, yeah, there's so much you can do if anyone on your team decides to help you with what Aegislash is doing.
Yeah, we ran a team comp where we and like I don't know. We've been trying this a little bit more and more. We're not like a competitive team. We play 5 stacks, but we've been trying doing like 2-on-2 lanes where we'll do like a top laner with Blissey, and then we'll do like a Mamoswine Ninetales lane, and I was jungling Aegislash. And so like the goal there is essentially like Mamo Ninetales, they just try to hold the lane, right? They do their best in the bot lane. They try to hold it down. And you know, we try to get like top lane and jungle like going, right? Like we're trying to spread out the experience, slow down the enemy top laner and stuff like that. And when it comes to the team fight, like we actually were putting like Kipsune was playing, our top laner was playing like Cinderace in top lane. So we were doing like Cinderace Blissey lane because we can get like Cinderace farmed, and we could role swap those. Like we could put Aegislash in top lane, but she just doesn't own it. But we could role swap those. And like the goal there is that like if you have an Aegislash and like a Cinder on a team, for example, you can dive in the backline and they will use so much on you that the Cinder just like free farms the rest of the fight. And so I love the tank aspect of not having to be a tank, because if you have a tank and an Aegislash, it feels like you're taking so much burst that the fight is won just because they're using too much on you, right? But like how can they not, right? Because you're just like in their face, like, and then you wide guard or you Iron Head, you block damage, and then you're healing yourself, and it's like I think the character strength is not just like how fast can it burst down the backline, but really like how much can it bring damage and mitigate damage for everybody else.
Yeah, it can act as like a decoy in a team fight, you know, and it's really, really useful to have that on the team. I think it's a pretty solid character, and it's still early days. You know, someone's probably going to pick this up and potato uwu, right, and just start dominating everybody. It's going to happen at some point.
I think this character, it is Crashy. I think this character, as you guys mentioned earlier, the thing that happens in this game is when you have things that are without question kind of universally agreed to be overpowered, when something releases that's decently balanced, you're kind of like,
it's not as balanced as Greedent release.
Okay.
Yeah, Greedent's a little more balanced, yeah. Or Dragonite. Hey, or Dragonite is Arena. I mean, come on.
To be fair, Aegislash is really good at stealing Zap. It's really good at stealing Zap.
I mean, yeah,
I actually love using its Unite for a steal on objectives. It comes up really often. You have a long range on it. It's a pretty dang good objective steal, honestly.
It's like I can't remember what the percentage health is, the execute. So like it acts like an execute, so it actually does good damage. Like I've like flipped Dreadnoughts versus like Hyper Beam Dragonites, and like if they weren't ready for the burst, you know, like you know how that feeling is, like they're trying to save the Dragon Dance and get the right burst timing, so like they start winding up and I just like and I just steal it, and it's like sorry, like so yeah, there's definitely like really good potential. I do think that a big part of the skill ceiling with Aegislash, like if you're trying to be a good Aegislash player, and the same would be said about Pikachu, it's like knowing that you don't need to be too conservative with your Unite move. Like if you're holding an off lane, if you're sitting in lane at like, you know, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, and there's just like you're waiting for farm, you're waiting for that second dread timer to pop up, like don't be afraid to just like whack them with a Unite move, and you could push their tier 1 goal, or if they're pushing your tier 1 goal, you can hold it a little bit longer. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think that sells Buddy Barrier. Not that Buddy Barrier needs to be sold, but like that sells Buddy Barrier on the character. And yeah, so don't be afraid to Unite on this character.
Yeah, absolutely. I've thrown its Unite like right at 3 minutes and had it back for Zap. So I think you can throw this Unite a ton, a lot more than you expect. And I think that was a really cool choice. It's a weird Unite because given that it's an execute, there are sometimes you use it and you're like, that did absolutely nothing at all. It was completely useless. And then there are other times where it's like, I just KO'd 4 people with one Unite. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, it's been such a fun character. I mentioned this a lot. I don't know how much this factors into how you guys pick your characters. Obviously, competitively, you have to make some different choices, but I love that they release characters that I just really enjoy playing. I love that they're getting more and more varied. Like, I feel like they're branching out from what we would maybe expect from a character in a MOBA. We've got this one that has stance changes now. I'm just excited to see them continue to make characters that are less basic than I have 2 ranged moves, one stuns you and one deals extra damage. Like, I like seeing a character like this. So I think the fun factor for Aegislash is very, very high. which I really love.
Throwing some shade at Pikachu there.
I have Ninetales up on my screen right now. So I was kind of looking.
I think the SP attackers all fall under that.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely cool. Like the mechanical diversity in this character is just really nice. You can definitely see the difference between a good and a bad player on this Pokemon. You can see it very, very, very clearly, and I think that's really cool. I think skill ceiling is important, and it's just a great showing of that.
Yeah, I will say, and this isn't really related to the character, but it kind of is. I really tried to want to love Lock-On Icon again. I put it back on because I want to target my boosted autos so bad. But Lock-On Icon is just such an unintuitive setting. Like,
it's terrible.
It's really bad.
The one thing that kills me from using Lock-On Icon, at least on Switch, because I've heard that mobile players like it. Don't get me wrong. Mobile players have been like, oh, we like that setting. And I'm like, okay, cool. On Switch, it just doesn't work well. And the reason why is because if you have a target selected and they step out of range, you just can't attack at all. Like, it's like, it doesn't even try to, like, flip the priority list. And that drives me insane because, like, why? I just want to attack, but I don't like. It's hard to like. Okay, I want to target Cinder. Shing, shing, shing. Oh, Cinder's out of range. Let me move my thing to Slowbro. Like there's already too much going on. Like
yeah.
So it just. I wish that it would like at least kind of like. It should like stay on your target lock on icon, and then when the target steps out of range, it should naturally flip into the other one. And that's the thing, like that would be the skill ceiling of it. Not that you need to change it when a target's out of range, but that when you need to change it when a target steps back into range. So like if like say a Cinderace steps out of range, it makes my Lock-On Icon swap to somebody else, and then the Cinder comes back, then it's like, oh, he's back in range. I need to flip it back. But don't make me have to flip it off, then flip it back. Like it's a lot to have to deal with.
It really
I remember when the game first came out, everyone had it on because obviously we were all thinking, oh, great. I don't want to target Snorlax. I want to target, the Greninja on their team. But yeah, it just quickly became you tapping A and no one being you're just not attacking. You're just standing there and you're going, oh, this is actually horrible right now. So I would have it on for so long. I just had it on my screen and I refused to use it because it was completely useless for me. So yeah, I think they definitely need to do something to make that work. Even if it's just you click it to Cinder and it stays on Cinder. However, when Cinder's not, like when Cinder's in range, it lights up, so it works. And when Cinder's not in range, it kind of behaves as normal. Maybe something that would work.
They could make it to where, like, you're absolutely right. When you step out of range, it could act as if you had the setting off entirely. And then it just goes back into the HP values.
Instead of turning off your basic attack.
Yeah, and also I think I've said this in the past about it. I can't stand that the actual click of it acts like an attack too. Like if you're in range of someone and you press the button in their direction, that is the same as pressing A, and that's weird. Like I just want it to be a selector. I don't want it to influence whether or not I'm physically doing something. I don't know. It's a bizarre setting. It's got a lot of potential, and I hope we see that fleshed out because I actually think that if Lock-On Icon works, it would raise the skill ceiling of the game. Like, you would be Cinderace choosing what target you want to fight. You would be, Speedsters. You'd be Absol choosing what target you want to jump on. And that means a lot, I think. If it ever gets there, yeah.
While we're talking about the lock-on wheel, does anyone miss the glory days of when the B button and A button actually did what they were supposed to do?
Oh, that was nice.
That was a nice time, right? I want to go back to that time.
So the bug I think that you're talking about, Lush, and I don't know if it's still happening a ton, but when you use a move and then want to hit B to target a wild Pokemon, it will still have you attack an enemy Pokemon nearby. So it kind of messes you up for the bees fight and stuff like that. I don't know if that's still happening a ton. I know that I guess it was the most recent patch that just started happening a whole bunch where all of a sudden I would be trying to steal wild Pokemon, but instead I would just auto attack an enemy, which is very frustrating considering how much more important wild Pokemon are than kicking one fireball at Pikachu.
It happens the other way around for me a lot too. I'll be chasing. Perfect example. I'm going up the midsection. I'm passing through one of the L bushes, and there's the Crawdon or the Corphish there. and like I'll have like an Aegislash boost and I'm pressing A and the player will walk into the bush and so it dashes me onto the core fish. And it's like, well, now I just went downward instead of chasing upward because I lost vision of him for like a second. And instead of just not attacking because I'm pressing the player button, this is what this button was intended to do, was only hit players. It sends me downward on the crawfish, the corefish.
The crawfish.
I think, I'm getting crawdont and corefish mixed up. It sends me down on the corefish, and then now my chase potential's over. And it's like, if you're gonna give me an option to separate it per wild and player, like full do it, please, because that's a skill ceiling thing and it's an option, right? Like that's the whole point. It's a player option. We get to we get to choose. Agree. So help me out on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think all that is really good stuff. I didn't even expect us to talk about this, but all that is really important. I feel like they have so many different options that they could add. I always wonder how much of this is just influenced by the fact that it's on mobile also, and they're like, look, we don't know how to do this. Yeah. We don't know how to make it work on Switch and make it work on mobile. We're trying to figure it out, but half the time we come up with some weird bug that no one ever anticipated. I guess, do we want to have some final thoughts on Aegislash here? Is there anything else we want to say? I guess some of my final thoughts are, I really like it. I think it's a solid Pokemon that would land probably, if you're doing a tier list, probably in the mid area there, somewhere around like B or maybe low A, depending on how good you are with it. I totally agree with what we said before about kind of Shadow Claw feeling like, this is good, but it just doesn't do enough for how much you lose by not having Sacred Sword. And then for its other two moves, I like Iron Head a lot. I like being able to just kind of walk around the map and charge up my boosteds as I'm making my way towards something. I also love a move that nullifies damage. However, I do find it kind of hard to time. It's a lot more difficult to time the invulnerability of it compared to other things. Those are I guess my kind of closing thoughts on Aegislash. I think it's a really cool character.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lush?
My closing thoughts would be, I'd say it's a really fun Pokemon. It is good. It definitely can win you games. There are comps that can be built around it where it's really fun, really impactful. It just doesn't quite hit the meta for me. But that's okay, because I'd rather a character come out balanced and then be tweaked than be greeted.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts, yeah.
For me, it's not a Lucario, it's not a Cinder, but it's also not like a Gengar or a Crustle or a Decidueye. So, as far as like, people will ask, the really simple question, should I buy this Pokemon? Yeah, I think so. I think you should. I think it's fun.
You have a lot of fun.
I think build-wise, just for the sake of saying, I would highly recommend people experiment running very, like, much more durable focus builds. I think that, like, when I let go of the idea of, like, I want to blow everything up, I started doing a lot better. I run weakness, focus, and buddy, and it feels like, yeah, that's not a very high damage build, but it's been working for me. I'd love to hear what other people are liking on it. Muscle Band feels like it would be good, but like you don't really need it. Razor Claw, I'm not a huge fan of. Scope Lens, if the crit, like we've talked about how the crit works in this character, if the crit was maybe baseline higher, or if the spiking crit was higher, maybe I'd feel like going Shadow Claw into a crit build, and I'll probably mess with that a little bit more here in the future just to see what I can find out. But yeah, I've been really liking like more like truly like all-rounder bruiser build kind of weakness policy as my damage item Aegislash, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It feels like a character built for a weakness policy, which is really cool because it's an odd item. It's like a little not good enough, but on a character like this who is like when they are fighting, they are so in the thick of it that it feels like weakness policy is a very, very good option for this character. I run something pretty similar to you, Crashy. I keep it very tanky with like a buddy barrier, a focus band, and then I've kind of just been going back and forth on that last item slot. I've tried muscle, razor, weakness. I like them all decently. When I play Iron Head, I've been using Razor more just because I feel like I'm, using my abilities more often with that build, and that seems to work all right for me. What about you, Lush? What have you been running?
I think Focus and Buddy feel like staples for me. I just feel like I can't really make it work too well without them. I like Razor a lot. For both the slow and just the damage increase, right? But I have been messing with weakness. I surprisingly don't like Muscle that much on this character, which I really thought, like, looking at the character before it came out, I was like, I'm going to run Muscle on this, but yeah, it just doesn't feel like it does that much for the character. It helps with the early clear a little, but can we just say this character of having one damaging ability has insane clear? as insane
Yeah, it
for one
has
damage
very
ability.
It
fast
really
growth.
does.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I think for me, it's either focus, body, razor, or weakness in the last 2 slots.
Nice. Let's head on over and start talking about the open qualifiers coming up for the Pokemon Unite Championship Series. I mean, there have been like a ton of huge announcements about Pokemon Unite, the World Championships, the regions. Did we get to talk about this on the last podcast, or was it not announced yet?
It wasn't
announced yet.
We talked about like that it was coming up and stuff. Like we talked about that it's been like this looming thing that we're all waiting for details on, but it finally got announced. So now we have like 99% of the details, 98% of the details now.
Wow. Well, there's so much to get into. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to find out, Crashy, if you're planning on trying to compete in there, because I know you have been playing a lot of, competitive 5 stacks with your team. And Lush, obviously, you're very, very interested in it. You guys were #1 in the world at one point. So, Lush, why don't you tell me a little bit about your team and what you guys are thinking, and then I want to hear the same from you, Crashy. And while you're doing that, I'm going to try to pull up some of the details from this so I can just give everybody some of the straight facts.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we are definitely competing. We're already registered for the first tournament next Saturday, and we're really, really looking forward to this. So we did that grind to rank 1, and I'm not sure if you guys familiar know Crashy probably is, but getting to rank 1 from Australia is very difficult because we have 20-minute queues in our region.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite an experience, and we're excited to play an entire tournament on green ping. I can't explain how happy just that makes me alone. It's a rarity for us, but yeah, we're training as hard as we can. We're gonna just give it our best, and we only have 1 spot here, so it's gonna be competitive, and hopefully some good teams come out, like so we can have some good competition. I'm encouraging everyone to sign up. Everyone that can in OCE, sign up. Let's compete. And I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited for that. Are the Bandicoots doing Crashy? The Bandicoots?
So we haven't really talked about it because like my thing is that like if
Come
I'm being honest,
on.
listen, we'll probably sign up for it, but I'm not like, this is not some story of how Crashy makes it to Worlds. Like it's not what I'm going for, right? Like I've done my competitive thing like many years ago. And while I'm always a competitively focused person, like, building a team, if I know what it takes to get to a high level in like actual competitive, and the reality is like we're drastic, like we're so far behind. Is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible, but we don't even have a locked in bottom laner. We just moved our attacker to top lane, and we're like playing with like 2-3 subs in the bottom lane for attacker. So will we sign up? Yeah, you'll probably see us in one of the opens. Will you see us in the monthlies? No, probably not. you probably won't see us in the regionals or anything like that. But
who knows, man? Maybe you guys
Who
will
knows?
get to Worlds and you'll be sitting across from me just trash talking me the whole time.
I don't
Who
know.
knows?
I just like, open qualifier #1, we upset Team Shiny, we go to the finals, we knock out TTV. Like I don't know. Like we'll see what happens. Let's not predict too far ahead in the future.
One thing I'll say is we've been trying out some really cool strategies. I'm not going to mention them here. We want to surprise people in the tournament, but we've been trying out some really cool things that. So when we queue in ranked, we verse the Philippines teams, the Indonesian teams, the Japanese teams, some NA teams. So I feel like we do have that bit of luck that we've experienced the entire world in our games. So we've come up with our own meta that kind of adapts things from everything, and I'm really excited to try that out in a competitive setting.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see, obviously, both of you compete. I kind of feel the same way as you, Crashy. Not that I'm going to be competing at all, but I would recognize if I do bring a 5-person team into this event, I simply don't put in the kind of time that competitive teams do with the same roster, very, very specific playing. I mean, they're like streaming for 12 hours a day on a really specific strategy. So I hope to see you competing. But yeah, it is really tough because to compete at that high of a level, you really have to have a very specific setup and kind of a very specific life. I don't know if you can compete at that high of a level and also be, making like 3 videos a day on just anything around Unite as well. You kind of are just head down competing in this game. Speaking of the speaking of some of the information about the tournament here, I did pull it up so that hopefully we can have it. In case you don't know anything about it, it will be the Pokemon Unite World Championships will be held in London, around with the rest of the Pokemon World Championships in August. There will be 2 teams coming from North America, 1 team from South America, 2 from Europe, 1 from Oceania, 2 from Japan, 2 from South Korea, and 2 from Asia Pacific. And we're not sure if they're going to be adding possibly more teams. I know, Crashy, you were mentioning earlier that you saw that they might be adding some teams from some other regions. I don't have that right in front of me here.
If you scroll all the way down to, like, if you're on the unite.pokemon.com/championship page, if you go all the way down to the bottom, it lists the 7 regional zones. And then it says, subject to change, additional regions are being evaluated and may be added later. So the original leak was 16 teams, and just from like a competitive standpoint, like 12 teams is kind of weird, but 16 seems a little bit better. So it even says, stay tuned for details on qualifying for 2022 World Championship for residents of Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Peru. And so I have to imagine that they're...
the pronunciation.
Thank you. No, so I have to imagine that they're going to be adding 4 slots, but they're just like evaluating, like, maybe the density of those regions or the popularity of the game in those regions to make the best decision. So it does say everything's subject to change. So, we never know. They may, and like, if, let's say realistically, the density of, the Mexican player base is just too low, they may throw one more NA team on there or another Oceania team. So we just have to kind of wait and see. I know, unfortunately, I just feel like, for the sake of saying, unfortunately, India has been excluded, and there's been no communication about why India hasn't been put on here. I would love to see India get a slot, because the India community is pretty big for Unite, from what I can tell, and they're pretty passionate about the game. They really show up, and I would love to see them get a spot for Worlds.
I have a question.
That's also what I was going to... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lush.
Does everyone in America call it Oceania? Or is that just you guys?
Oceania.
Oh, did I say it wrong? Sorry.
It's Oceania.
Oceania. Sorry.
Oceania.
Yeah.
Dude,
to be honest,
tomatoes.
I've read it twice fast, and I literally pronounce every single word wrong, and I get corrected on every single video. I don't care anymore about words.
All right, we have to do this pause.
Absolutely nothing to me.
We have to do this pause. Okay, Spraggles, when you think of tennis shoe companies, you have Nikes, and what's the other big one?
Adidas?
Yeah, it is Adidas, isn't it, Lush?
No, it's Adidas.
What is it?
It's Adidas.
Adidas?
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's Adidas. It is a German name pronounced Adidas. That is how you pronounce it.
You live in Oceanians, and it is Adidas.
It is Adidas.
Adidas. I'm going to jump off a building. There's no way.
I was sitting in a channel. I was sitting in a channel, and he hit me with that one day, and I was like, I can't do this right now. I can't do this right now, man. Oh no.
Oh man. Well, something I did want to talk about, that you brought it up, Crashy, is obviously there's a bit of a campaign on Twitter to get India put into the championships, and I mean, I'm totally in agreement that India's player base is really excited. They're doing a lot of things with Unite. I'm actually kind of surprised that they don't have any, even if it's a ton of teams, but they only get one slot. That wouldn't be the best, but I'm actually surprised that they have no representation also. I don't know, like how things work internationally with bringing different regions and countries. There's probably so much about this that I don't know, because, even as we look below, you'd think, well, wait, why isn't a team from Mexico, possibly in the NA category? I don't know anything about this, but it would be really cool to see a team from India there, because, they have just so much excitement for this game. So there are a lot of rules, and we have a big document up, and we're going through some of them, but we're not going to be able to figure it all out right here on this podcast. But the tournament's coming up. Open qualifiers are happening this weekend. I'm super excited to see what that looks like and to hear from all the teams competing. I wanted to talk a little bit about the experience in this game between solo queue and 5 stacks. Obviously, this topic was brought up before the show by Crashy, because Crashy, you have you've been playing a lot of 5-stacks lately, which has been very different from sort of your early experience with this game, which is mostly solos or maybe duos and trios. And it feels like you've had a newfound sort of love for one aspect of this game, but it's also made you kind of recognize how difficult matchmaking can be for the solo players.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that like pays attention to my perspective, like you'll know exactly where I'm going to go with this. I'm a huge hater, and I say hater intentionally, on the way that matchmaking is being handled. And I focus on ranked. I could go on ahead and say like I do think that standard matchmaking is pretty bad too, but I don't really have a lot of experience with it. But it could use some looking into. But TLDR, when you play 5-stacks, it is just like your team, it's your responsibility to be as good as you can be playing other 5-stacks teams doing the same thing. And it feels really fair and it feels really competitive. It almost feels like sometimes it feels too competitive, like it's almost too sweaty and I don't want to do it. But it's so much different to the experience that you get when you're not playing with a full team. And the reality is that we have enough resources, like being able to click on our teammates and look at their profiles, being able to unite API them and go to an offsite kind of website to look into them. We have enough information to literally prove that matchmaking is not working right. And working right is like, that's a subjective term, right? Like, I guess this could be working as intended, but intended is like bad design if that's the way that they want. Essentially, the matchmaking system is putting high rank players or higher win rate players with players that have lower rank and lower win rate. And it is doing it intentionally. And I think that that's a huge problem. I would love to see them at least try to address it. The last time the only time they've ever said anything about matchmaking was back in December, and they said they made adjustments. And like the tweet said, like, we made adjustments to try to like more like to pair people of like more like evenly skilled together. And like, that's definitely not true, or it didn't work. And yeah, I don't know. I really challenge anyone to go out there and play 5s and just see how completely different the game is.
Yeah. Now, this is the first time I've heard you mention matchmaking, so this is interesting.
Never talks about it. Never.
But you're so right. When they said that they did something to matchmaking, and then you hop in and you think, did you make it worse somehow? I think maybe what they did was originally it was just only focused on getting people into games fast, but now they're like, not only is it focused on getting into games fast, but 2 of your teammates are going to be really bad. that's kind of what has happened with it. It's a very different experience because I've got to play. I played a little 5-stack with you, Crashy. I played a little 5-stack with this guy Jeff Hoogland a little bit, and it is a totally different experience. Not only is it different because you're communicating with your team and you guys are playing a different game, but you're playing a totally different game. When I play solo, which is a majority of what I am playing, I am not playing the same video game. It is a different video game when you're playing solo because you have to make so many considerations that you would never make as a team. You have to be like, okay, my Zero Horror right now has left. They're not going to be present for the Zapdos fight. So I actually have to pull back. I have to let the enemy kind of fight in there a little bit. I actually can't help in this moment because 2 of my teammates are now running to the center trying to score even though the goals are not down yet. So you just have to make so many different considerations as a solo player, and it is a totally different video game. I hope they do something to make it a little bit better. At this point, I honestly don't know what that would be, if I'm being honest. I think one thing that Lush brought up earlier is, these massive queue times. We can't have that as a solo player, or no one will play this video game. So I don't know what they do. I would like to hear a little bit about your experience, Lush. I assume you don't play much solo, do you? I
play quite a lot of solo, actually. I have 2 accounts. I have a completely solo account. It's what I do for like content and just testing stuff, right? I think matchmaking is perfect. You guys are totally wrong. No, so I think that playing 5s feels very, very competitive. It feels like you're playing a ranked mode. And then playing solo queue, you sit there and you're like, it's 2 minutes left and my Venusaur is not a Venusaur. So it's a very different feeling. I would love to see them improve it. I think tightening the points, right? So like if you're like 2,000, you only queue with 1,800 and up or something. You know what I mean? Tightening the points a little bit could really, really sort it out. But yeah, I kind of just use solo queue to brush up on mechanics or just like make videos, right? It's hard to take it seriously because, as you said, it feels like a completely different video game.
Yeah, it really does. There are just moments in solo queue where you have to think, well, I can't take this fight. We can't do this. We can't do this. Like right now, I just have to farm. Like there's nothing I can do. I can't participate in this Rotom fight because we only have one person there and they're pinging that they need backup, which is kind of true, but nobody else is going to go. It's just like it's just so many decisions are made in solo queue that you would never make in a 5-stack team. It's really interesting.
Does anyone else ever feel like the enemy team is just so coordinated all the time?
Oh my god, they're so good.
Anyone doesn't feel like that. They're just so coordinated all the time.
For me, I think the issue is that when you and I don't know how else to elegantly put this, when you're a good player, it's just too big of an ask on you. Like they're expecting way too much, and everything that the system does is at your expense. Like if you want to have fun in solo queue, you have to carry your team. Like like if you want to win, you have to carry your team. And so it's really a matter of like, don't hate the player, hate the game. Because when I look at my teammates, Unite API profiles, or I look at their profiles and I see that they have a 47% win rate and they're running Wise Glasses, EXP Share, and Scope Lens on Cinderace, like, the reality is that a real ranked mode would never have let that person into my game, and a real like matchmaking system would never let that person into my game because they're quite literally inexperienced. And in a game that treated matchmaking a little bit more seriously, that player would have hit a wall much sooner, and they would have been stuck in their own little realm of other people doing the same thing, and they have a responsibility to improve out of that. But instead, in this game, when you can play with literally anyone, they naturally get pulled up slowly over time, and that doesn't even actually matter because they can still get paired with anybody. You can be, I can't remember who it was. It was like I was on a stream the other night and I was watching, I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was like Otter, and he's a competitive player in North America, and he was playing with someone that was like current rank 3, and they had like vets on their team. And it's like, that is just one of those things that, like, I don't think anyone could possibly tell me that that's an okay thing. And so, I don't know. I would love to see them at least make iterations, because I don't think that I can't come on here and say, this is how you fix it for sure, because the trade-off is better matchmaking equals longer queues, but there needs to be iteration and testing, right? Like, they could make a matchmaking change for the weekend, post about it, say, hey, how did that feel? What do y'all think? Give us your feedback. We do a little survey, they pull it back, and they say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to wipe out those changes. We're going to go back to normal. We're going to look at the data, and we're going to try again. But it feels like they're just doing nothing with it, and I think that that's what's made me so frustrated, is that, like, it feels like there is an outcry from the community about this issue, and they just do nothing with it.
One thing I will say that I think they've done, and I could be wrong here, I do feel like I queue into less 5-stack teams. So that's I think true. They may have changed that. So I remember solo queuing, and you'd literally queue into clearly a 5-stack team who's all streaming right now, and you're like, this is a nightmare. Yeah. I'm by myself. But I feel like that happens less, which I guess is kind of cool. But I think that's a great idea, Crashy. I would love to see them just try some things. Be like, hey, we're trying this out. Let us know if matchmaking's better or worse. Or, maybe they do it for a week and be like, did you notice that we changed this? And people go, oh, yeah, that actually did feel a little bit better. So that would be very cool. I would love to see them mess with it a little bit. I want my queue times low and my teammates great. I don't know how you figure that out, but that's what I would love. We're heading into a possible balance patch coming soon, and of course we have a new Pokemon coming very, very soon. So I wanted to talk about maybe our thoughts around this new Pokemon, and then hopefully some buffs and nerfs that we'd like to see coming up here soon. We have a supporter being released. It says in February, so I don't see a way that it doesn't come out next week, Wednesday evening, my time. I'm on the West Coast, Best Coast, so Pokemon usually come out around 4 p.m. my time on the 23rd, but I can't imagine another release date for this Pokemon, right? It has to be next week.
Yeah, I mean, they land on like a 2 to 3 week release schedule, and if you look at a 3 week release schedule, then we tip into March. So it's gotta be like 23rd, 24th. Like it's gotta be like within a week. That said, I mean, I don't know, but I feel like Clefable's a pretty safe bet. I've heard a lot about Togekiss. I've seen the artwork. I've seen people compare it to, to different Pokemon assets. And I don't know. I just think because Clefable was in the beta, because the characters modeled out and they had already done some kind of work, even though I know they kind of like, Frankensteined it into Wiggly or whatever. I don't know. I just think that's like the safest guess.
Frankensteined it.
Yeah, I mean, they did. Like they did.
It's true.
That's a term.
We'll take your double slap. What do you think, Lush?
I think Clefable is the safest answer. I think it could be any fairy type Pokemon. I'm assuming it's a fairy type. It could be any one of them, but since the model's already made, I don't see why it wouldn't be Clefable. I feel like that's just like the easiest option for them. That's my take on it.
I think, someone brought up Florges as a possibility, and I can't remember if it was this Pokemon or another one, but they were saying that Trevenant and Aegislash are from the same gen as Florges, so they were wondering if it was all that gen, maybe. And I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting call, right?
Cool take,
I mean, fairy type Pokemon, it feels like it could definitely be a supporter. I don't know if it has the power that we all think it is, but that we think the Unite is. Oh yeah, it has Moonblast. Yeah,
that was also the generation fairy Pokemon were released, by the way.
Oh. Well, you know what? I think that's actually a decent call that people are guessing Florges. I've seen some people also mention Cresselia. There are a few options out there. I would always love it to be someone where you go, I didn't think that was going to happen. I think Clefable would be great, but at the same time, very expected. So it would be cool to throw something else, because I think people they geek out when it's not what we expect. You want a little Dragonite and then you want a little Zarina. I feel like they balance that pretty well in this game. Yeah. Although Togekiss would be just so popular.
Togekiss would be so cool. Togekiss would be so cool.
But that's really cool. We have a character coming out maybe in a week.
I just want it to be a healer.
Yeah, on new characters, they haven't released a character that doesn't evolve, right? As a newer character once the game came out.
Jeez. I guess you're right, huh?
Well, Serena. No, wait, Serena evolves.
No,
yeah.
It evolves.
They haven't released one, have they?
No, Mamo evolves. Everything evolves.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I wonder if they're gonna do that, or if they're like, look, Lucario's already broken, we're not gonna
let's not do that again.
We're not gonna make this mistake again. Speaking of Pokemon that are broken, or Pokemon that need some help, let's talk about buffs and nerfs that we could see coming in a patch soon. We don't know when balance patches will be released. Sometimes they're pretty massive, other times they just fix one of Blissy's moves, but oftentimes after a couple characters are released, after it's been like a month or so, we see a balance patch in this game. I'd like to, maybe we can just kind of go around the horn a little bit and talk about some buffs and nerfs we'd like to see. A quick one, I would just like to see Trevenant get some buffs kind of across the board. I would love to see that character become a little more viable, and I do think it needs a little help everywhere, basically.
Yeah,
definitely.
How about you, Crash?
The Chris Heroes tweet.
That's what I thought.
Always makes me laugh.
Exactly what I thought of.
It just, if it had better cooldowns, more damage, more health, more. I think Trevenant would be a great candidate. I mean, even something like let's make some passes at like Crustle and Decidueye. I know that they've done like Decidueye and Gengar buffs, but like these characters do still need a little bit of help, I think, and able to be at least a little bit more viable. The reality though is that it's weird. Like I feel like we could fast forward to like a month from now and we'll be like, oh man, like I don't know, like Absol's just still left in the dust. Like it's always going to be someone, you know what I mean? Like It's always going to be someone. But I think it's worth talking about. So yeah, I would love to see like lifesteal buffs on Decidueye. I think that could be like a cool way of just not adding a ton of damage to it to make it viable. I think Crustle, I don't know what you do with Crustle. I honestly have no idea what you do with Crustle. I don't know.
You just make it green.
I was going to say maybe... No, as crazy as that sounds, I was going to say maybe you make Shell Smash like super, super fast. And maybe you make like Rock Tomb like have like half the cooldown it has, so you're just spamming walls all over the place and being obnoxious.
Xizza unstoppable. That is what I want to see.
Well, that'd be nice, so that way you can't get cute charmed. Like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Nerf cute charm. Like,
on that, I think they should buff Wigglytuff. I think
it needs help.
I think Q Charm shouldn't have a cooldown.
I like that. I like that. It needs to stop more things. I would love to see a little, like, if just thinking of some Pokemon I'd like to see some love for. I think Cram, has been left out in the cold for a long time. I feel like we need to just get a little something to Cram. I would love to see them mess with its Unite move a little bit. It's pretty cool, but maybe even if you just, Crashy, you've talked about maybe it slowly crawls or something like that. I'm just thinking, what if you're just invulnerable? I know that's crazy, but what if just for a minute you can't even hurt this thing? Like, because you can KO it.
Maybe, well, like, not even for like the full duration, but like, what if it like, okay, so what is the duration of the Unite move if it's like 3 seconds, 4 seconds or something?
That is terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying, but the thing is not terrifying now. That's the problem. Like, it doesn't do anything.
So terrifying.
Like, because now when I see Cram Unite, you just think, all right, let's just go KO
you just dogpile
just KO it right now.
I think even if you like, if it like, I'm hypothetical because I can't remember. If it's like a 4-second Unite move, like you could literally give the first 2 seconds like invulnerability, which sounds crazy, right? But like, yeah, crazy because it would be good. Like, it would, and so then
yeah, what if it was actually good?
Well, so then you would have to. Then the enemies are forced with taking. They make a choice, right? Do we take 2 seconds of getting shredded by this Unite move and then dogpile it, or do we run back and disengage? So it's like, at least it would be, that might not even make it viable. You know what I mean? Like, that might not even be enough, but like, it'd be something.
While we're throwing out crazy ideas, why don't we just make the whole giant circle a slow smoke slow?
Beautiful.
Hey, you say that, but maybe they leave the damage alone and every hit slows the enemies.
Yeah, like, maybe.
I mean, there's got to be something you can do to make it feel like
they've got to do something. Cram.
I feel like with Cram ults, it's a meme. Like, you just like
it is.
Look at him.
Cram is just like, I'm gonna take all your farm early and then do nothing with it. That's just kind of what Cram is right now. It's just
the thing I've noticed with Cram is the only time I actually find its Unite move to be useful is when we're already at an advantage. So it's like if there are 3 or 4 of us near an objective and 2 enemies are around, it's actually pretty good. But when it's an even fight, it's just like, why am I doing that? I would rather hit someone with Surf and like Hurricane than be in this like not so ideal Unite move. So that's someone I'd love to see a buff on. Is there anyone, Luch, that you'd love to see a big buff on?
One thing I'd actually really like to see, and I don't know if this is possible because of the way the mechanic works, is can Blizzard or Ninetales go through walls, please? Because I just feel like with that character, because you have no mobility, you try to position behind walls. You try to take advantage of that spacing, but you can't use your damage ability through walls. So it just feels very unintuitive, I suppose. I would love to see that changed because I think that holds Ninetales back quite a lot. Something else I would like to see is, this might be a hot take as well, I think Snorlax needs a little love. I think Snorlax is a decent pick right now, but I think it needs a little love because we're in a crazy damage meta, right? And I think this is the first time in a while competitively that you really feel if your tank is not doing damage, and it feels like you almost can't pick it. And I would just love to see a little bit of love on Snorlax. Not too much, please. Don't bring Old Block back. But I would love to see a little bit of love somewhere.
Something you said about Ninetales, maybe this actually works with it. Maybe it's not that once it hits a wall, it creates that that area damage. Maybe it's when it hits any wall. So like you were saying, maybe it goes through walls, but it could hit multiple points really in there, cool. And then each one can have a little, swirling blizzard effect in that area. That would be pretty fun.
That would be really cool. That would actually
because like
really
you could put like for example, like if you're playing behind the zap wall, you could like hit someone that's immediately in front of you into the zap wall, but then you could have thrown your ice wall into the zap pit and hit somebody else inside of that one with it, and it's all like one big pierce. Because like it just feels like the character, like it just feels too restricted. I also think in general, like for me, like my perspective on SP characters is that like they're characters that do intermittent damage rather than like constantly DPSing. They're burst versus DPS. So a character like Cinderace, like you're constantly doing damage, and then you have like these little moments of like using an ability to reposition or to do like a little bit extra. But SP attackers like Pikachu, Ninetales, Cram, like they have very low DPS with high burst. I would love to see that them just have like bigger up times on their abilities, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're just their base abilities, but like even some of their Unite moves. Like I think that like you could take like Ninetales and Cram's Unite moves and pull them down like a tiny bit, and that would help them a lot, because then it feels like it's more spammable. And for an ability focused character, I feel like it kind of feels like on point. Like, you know, in competitive right now, you literally leave a Pikachu in bottom lane and try to dive that Pikachu. He's just going to Unite every single time. The Pikachu will just blow Unite and hold the goal. And I would love to see that same feel for like Ninetales and Cram. Like, okay, yeah, come push me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always going to have my Unite move because I'm an SP attacker. So something like that, just like giving them more uptime could be, I think, really cool.
Yeah, like the gap between like Cramorant and Venusaur is just so humongous.
Crazy.
It is so humongous.
Yeah, one is unplayable competitively, and one is like, yes, please.
Yes. One is, please nerf Venusaur, please. I'm so afraid.
I wonder, speaking about Venusaur, we could talk about some Pokemon that we'd like to see some nerfs on. Venusaur is always a possibility. I mean, it feels like it's just been around and a monster for so long. It's one of those weird Pokemon that if they change it too much, we never see it again. But at the same time, it's really, really incredible. I'm not sure what you guys would like to see some nerfs on inside the game. I feel like a lot of Pokemon are in this really weird spot where you have Cinderace, who's absolutely unbelievable. However, if you nerf him, we will no longer see Cinderace. So what do you do with situations like that? Like, okay, we want Lucario changed, but then we don't see Lucario anymore, which maybe is fine. It's been like the thing forever, but like, what would you guys like to see nerf wise?
I think that I want them to try to do nerfs that aren't like conventional nerfs, like taking Cinder and lowering its like attack range by a little bit, so that way you're doing the same damage, but it's that risk reward factor. So now you have to either have really good teamwork because they have to peel you, or you have to have really good positioning. And the same thing could be said for like, say, lowering like the faint flame charge cooldowns. Like if you raising, if you raise both of those cooldowns, then Cinder is naturally less safe because you raised it by like 2 seconds each. So now it's like your flame charge, your faint, like you got to be really, really particular with it. So like taking like a different approach to nerfing characters, I think is like really, that's not just like, oh, this character does too much damage, let's just rip its damage like that. I always think that that's kind of like almost like a lazy approach, and sometimes it's the way that you have to do it. Something like Wiggly, I don't know, like making it slightly less tanky, so the risk reward factor is like, yeah, you can run it in your tank slot, but it's not actually that tanky.
I'll never forget that Wiggly buff they did, where they just like tripled its, they tripled it like 4 times its defenses and just left it. They were like, yeah, this is good now. Like
they were like, this thing was actually supposed to be completely overpowered. Sorry about this, guys. We're just gonna raise this up here.
And didn't they change Sing? What happened to that? I thought they were supposed to change Sing, and then we sleepwalked.
It's like they told us they changed it, but it never actually did what it said they were gonna do. Like they said, like if you get slept and then you take damage, you'll wake up, and it's like, but no, but no,
but no, you won't.
Yeah, that does not happen.
One that actually just popped into my head as a buff that I had forgotten about, but I've been kind of talking about this for a while, ever since they put a cowboy hat on it, is Zeraora is now kind of in this weird spot where it's the only Pokemon who gets its abilities so late. This. I think it's the only Pokemon who gets its second move upgrade at 14. It's the only Pokemon who gets its Unite at level 10. It never evolves, which is, like kind of a cool benefit that it has. But I feel like you could bring all of Zeraora's moves, maybe past its level 8. You could bring them all down 1 level, and it would just be a nice buff, but it doesn't do anything to make him broken or anything like that. I think he's just kind of in this weird spot. Like they almost forgot that his moves scaled at a different rate.
Yeah. I think if we live in a world where Lucario can get extreme speed at 5, Zeraora can get Spark at 5. I think that's fair.
It would make the race to 9 in competitive really interesting, because I do think that if you bring that character to 5-7-9 or like 5-8-9 or however you want to do it, like I do think that character becomes jungle meta. Like maybe not the jungle meta, but like it becomes competitively viable, because Zera's not bad. Like it's strong. Like
Yeah.
when you get and that's why I actually think, ironic enough, like Zera and solo queue, it's not bad. You're just never gonna win the race to 10, right? Like you're never like that. There's
Yeah.
not that's not even a thing,
Yeah.
right? Like even saying that is
Yeah.
weird. So like first dread when you're Zera, it's like I hope we like I don't know, it's weird. It's almost like when you play Zera, like you almost like want to go top lane and have like a Dragonite on your team, so that way like you can get your Dragonite level 8 for Hyper Beam, and then you have Zera so you can like get more farm and like hope that y'all secure. Again, ironic enough, I think that if we had like a pick ban phase, like we could see Zera's in top lane. Like Zera's like not a bad top laner, so it's just weird. It's like in the current ecosystem, the climate that we have, I think that, I would love to see it 5-7-9. I think that in general, I would like to see no character ever go up to 10. It just feels like half the game. It's so far away.
Yeah. Do you think we need more level 8 Unite moves?
I wouldn't mind, but I think that like level 8 Unite moves need to be reasonable. Like they need to be reasonable, which like the ones we have, like if you look at Sylveon, like look cool. Like I don't know, she gets her ult, like it's fine. Like I don't know. I think it'd be fine to have more level 8 Unite moves as long as they're not like
Guardi ult level 8?
No. No.
That's another Pokemon I actually would love to see buffed is Sylveon. I don't think it needs a ton, but it's not competitive, and solo queue, it's not amazing.
You were talking about Gardevoir. I was like, you want to buff Gardevoir? I was like, no.
I think Sylveon's in a decent place. It could definitely use a little tweak, though. It could definitely use a little tweak. It's beyond, Cramorant Ninetales, right? It's better than that.
Yeah.
Give Hyper Voice Bullet Seed mobility.
Oh, you want to be able to move it around you?
Yeah.
Like I'd love that.
Like Blaze Kick. If a Cinder Blaze kicks over you, you're just like you just
Crashy
turn.
is well aware of how I feel about Sylveon.
I know you don't like Sylveon, but I don't like playing Sylveon right now because it just feels like
I do not like the fact that someone can just pick Calm Mind and Mystical Fire and just like move anywhere near me and win a fight. I don't like the character at all. But
I like low skill
high
characters that delete people.
It's like Electro Ball, Volt Tackle, Pikachu, right? Like you don't have to aim anything. It's just yeah, but I think Sylveon could use a little bit of love. Let's not go back to release Sylveon, please, ever. But it could definitely use a little bit of love.
Well, it was just such an aggressive nerf early, which I get. It was outputting so much damage. But now that the game has continued to evolve and we see so many characters kind of just able to really run around Sylveon and make it so its Hyper Voice is kind of a liability a lot of the time, I think we've got to do something to help it out a little bit because it really is in just kind of like a not so great place. That's what I'm thinking about Sylveon. Any other buffs and nerfs, guys?
Buff Lucario.
Yeah, make it better.
I mean, they did that last patch, to be fair. So
they kind of did, didn't they?
I still think like on a case by case basis, I would love to see defenders be like way tankier. Like, like we see like the one defender that's making like waves, or well, one or two defender that's making waves in competitive, or like Mamoswine and Slowbro. And which is so funny because both of them were so bad at one point. But like cool. Mamoswine Slowbro, and like Slowbro is making waves because it has one of two options. You're either incredibly tanky using like Potion and Amnesia, or you're incredibly CC focused using like Telekinesis. So you either bring a ton of CC to the table, or you bring a ton of tankiness. Yeah. And Mamoswine is like the same thing, right? Like it's relatively tanky, and it brings a really good amount of CC to the table. But like all the other tanks, they're just kind of like there, and you're right, they're either not tanky enough or don't bring enough CC, or they don't do enough damage. And so Lucia's right, like we do have like you can look at Slowbro numbers, and Slowbro's putting out like 50-60k in these games, and it's like 50-60k on Slowbro, like that's crazy. And and I'm not saying that that's broken, I'm saying that like maybe it is, or maybe the other tanks need to do more damage or bring more CC or be tankier. So like I don't know, like the Snorlax treatment, you want to see small buffs for Snorlax without breaking it. I think raise its defenses, like buff its like buff its defenses by like 15 to 20% and see how crazy that feels. And that may be too much, I don't know, but I would love to see buffs like that for the other tanks. Even Crustle, like Crustle can do what it does, but just be way tankier.
Yeah, I feel like a really interesting Snorlax, like a non-conventional buff for Snorlax could be increase the slow on its boosted attack. Because your boosted attack slows. I think if they increase that, so it's just... Because Snorlax kind of feels like you jump in, you use block, and then you do nothing for like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. You just kind of stand there. And the Unite, I want the beta Unite back. Bring the beta Unite back.
I was gonna say, is it weird? Like maybe they could make it to where Snorlax's Unite can be canceled. Like so then you can run around with the stem. Like maybe you do like, or you could not even cancel it, but you could like go through the stages really fast. So you could like flop down and heal. And then in the middle of the heal, you can flip over really fast and then cancel it and stand up and run. Because like the problem, like you go into a fight and you self CC yourself and you're like, you just wave as everybody just runs away. Like, bye.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I'd like to see is, and I don't know I would like to hear your takes on this. Do we need to nerf Autogos or do we just need more healers?
More healers.
I don't know. It's I don't know how to have this discussion without talking about muscle band, because I just think that like 3% on hit damage on ranged attacks, regardless of your character scaling, that is, I don't want to call it problematic. It's strong. And so we either have to acknowledge that ranged characters, regardless of what they are always going to benefit from muscle band. Muscle band needs to get nerfed, or they need to have, I don't know. This is going to sound crazy because I'm just literally coming up with it right now. What if we had a 4th item slot that was class specific? So then we have like a 4th item slot where they categorize the items and like you can. So hear me out. You could like have like some items that are specific to battle type or like lane role or something. Well, that's not good. Like so battle type, and then like certain characters just can't use it. Again, this is super random, so like don't butcher me too much in the comments for this one, because like this is just a really random idea. But I'm not gonna lie, I would honestly love if Eldegoss just couldn't pick muscle band. It would just be better.
I'll say this as a tank player right now, it is not fun being hit by 3 muscle bands on Slowbro, Autogos, and Pikachu in the bottom lane. It is not a fun time. And then you
get slowed by the 3rd boosted auto, like, and then you're like,
and then slow smokes are popping everywhere, and it's just it's a mess. It's crazy right now as a tank player. So in Smite, that's another MOBA. They do have class specific items, and a reason I think that would be really good for this game is because then people wouldn't put white glasses on Marchamp because you couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it would be.
I love this idea.
Yeah,
I like this one.
I'm tired of seeing experience share on my team's jungle Cinderace, so I'm happy.
They usually have
with
Sylvester too. I feel like they go together. Those
you
items.
just got to learn the value of move speed.
I know, it's just got to move that much faster.
Floatstone EXP share. That's the build.
I think they could do a lot with held items. We could probably talk for another hour about all the changes with held items, but nerfs and buffs in there, just something to make. Maybe you don't even nerf Buddy Barrier. Maybe you really like Buddy Barrier. Okay, but let's make some other items really viable to the point where you're like, Buddy Barrier is good, but Shell Bell is so freaking good right now. Like maybe. What do you both think?
you don't know Buddy Barrier. We both heard you say don't know Buddy Barrier, and we're like, wait a minute. No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Let me
no, I know what you're saying. I'm just messing.
I want it buffed. I want the item better. But I'm saying maybe also buff Shell Bell.
No, I think I think more than just item changes, I'm always going to advocate for like at least a 4th item slot, because I think a 4th item slot really opens the door for build subjectivity and then using some of these items that aren't as good that still need to get buffs regardless. But yeah, like I do get your point. Like we need the game to have so many competitive options for items that it's like, it's like you have to rip your hair out to make a build, right? Like, I don't know, like, do I run Shell Bell here because it can sustain me, or maybe no, because the thing is if like, I could take the extra Shell Bell sustain, given it was actually good, or I could take like energy.
Yeah, this is in a different reality.
Yeah, this is a different reality, so I had to set the stage. Or I could take energy because that's going to help me win those end game fights. So it's like, I know what you mean. Like, I would love to see just like, even if we only have 3 item slots, if they just buffed up some of these like useless items, I'm just gonna say it, useless items, this game it'd be rough, man. Like you would have to like really think about what kind of build you want to take going into a game. And we have a lot of items. We have like 6 items that are just like, yep, these are the ones you play. And so yeah, I think some light nerfs, some big buffs, some changes to held items, I would really, really welcome that.
Yeah, I'd love to see item changes. I could go on for hours about it, so I won't, but I would love to see some item changes.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we see a balance patch soon. We have a new character coming out. We have a lot of exciting stuff. We have the tournament. Aegislash was just released. Gentlemen, this has been a wonderful little podcast. I'm so glad that we all get together to do this. If you are watching this on YouTube, hi YouTube. But check us out, of course, on any place that you find podcasts. We're up on Spotify. Go ahead and give us a 5-star review if you have the time. Any parting thoughts, Lush?
Just listen to it. Listen to it. I mean, why not? Just put it on the background. Live your day. Just listen to our beautiful voices. You know,
Crashy.
Speak for yourself. My voice is ugly. No, no. We definitely appreciate it, everybody. I always see like the comments here and there of people hyping it up, saying they're looking forward to it. So we did this one a little bit like more timely with release of Aegislash, and I just appreciate y'all hanging out with me and chatting and having a good time. And I'm really, I mean, truly, like I think me and Jake both, like Lush is playing competitive, but me and Jake both, we engage a lot with the competitive side of this game, and I'm really looking forward to Worlds. There's going to be a lot of conversation, and we've already seen, like, we didn't really dive into this because it wasn't like a topic of today. We're already seeing roster changes. We're seeing teams like break up and shift and mold, and there's just a like from a person who's deeply invested in competitive, there's going to be a lot to talk about. You know, wow, week 1 open, you know, such and such team upset makes it to monthly. Like, there's just so much to talk about. So if you're a Pokemon Unite fan and you haven't checked out the competitive scene, I urge you to take a look at it, because one, watching competitive, it's a different game. It's a different game. You can't even begin to imagine how min-maxy these teams can be, and I'm personally I'm really looking forward to the entire, you know, championship series.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I love you all, and goodbye. Mwah.